The vast emptiness of space had always made humanity feel small, but on that fateful morning in 2157, we learned just how significant our place in the cosmos truly was. I remember standing at the New Earth Defense Command Center, watching as thousands of alien warships emerged from hyperspace, their metallic hulls gleaming under the light of our sun. The sight was both terrifying and awe-inspiring, like watching storm clouds gather before an unprecedented tempest. As Earth's chief diplomatic officer, I had dealt with numerous first contact scenarios, but this was different. The Galactic Empire, as they called themselves, hadn't come with peaceful intentions. Their fleet commanders transmitted a simple message across all frequencies: submit or perish. They expected us to bow down, to become another conquered species in their vast collection of subjugated worlds. What they didn't expect was our response. You see, humanity had a secret, one we'd kept carefully hidden from the prying eyes of alien civilizations. While they saw us as primitive newcomers to interstellar travel, we had been preparing for this exact moment for generations. Our history, filled with countless wars and conflicts, had taught us valuable lessons that peaceful species could never understand. I remember Admiral Chen's slight smile as she received the invasion ultimatum. "Send them our response," she ordered, her voice steady and confident. The message we transmitted was brief. "We strongly advise you to withdraw. This is your only warning." The Empire's representatives laughed at our audacity, literally laughed. Their supreme commander, a towering figure with iridescent scales, appeared on our view screen and dismissed our warning with a wave of his hand. That's when we revealed our first card. From hidden bases across our solar system, thousands of stealth satellites activated simultaneously. The Empire's sensors hadn't detected them because they'd never encountered our quantum masking technology before. No one had. Earth wasn't just defended by the ships they could see. We had layers of defenses developed through centuries of paranoid preparation. The alien commander's expression shifted from amusement to confusion as his tactical officers reported the sudden appearance of our defensive grid. But that wasn't what worried them. It was the data their analysts were frantically trying to process. Information about Earth's military history that we deliberately allowed them to access. They saw footage of our world wars, our strategic innovations, our relentless drive to perfect the art of combat. They watched simulations of how humanity had turned even failed invasions into opportunities to advance our military technology. We had been preparing for an alien invasion since before we reached the stars, developing weapons and tactics specifically designed to counter advanced civilizations. "Impossible," the alien commander muttered, his scales shifting to a pale shade of blue. "Your species is too young for such military advancement." But we could see it in his eyes, the first flicker of doubt. His empire had never lost a conquest, had never even faced serious resistance. But they had also never encountered a species that had spent its entire history fighting itself, perfecting the art of war through millennia of conflict. "This is your final chance to retreat," I transmitted, knowing what would happen next would change the course of galactic history. "We don't want this war, but if you force our hand, you will learn why every other spacefaring race avoided Earth's solar system. We are not trapped here with you. You are trapped here with us." The alien commander opened his mouth to respond, but before he could speak, our quantum defense grid activated, and that's when the real demonstration of humanity's military might began. What happened next would become legend throughout the galaxy, a cautionary tale about underestimating the species that had turned warfare into an art form long before they reached the stars. As our quantum defense grid hummed to life, the Empire's massive fleet found itself caught in an invisible web of gravitational distortions. Their ships, advanced as they were, began drifting like leaves in a storm. We had studied their propulsion technology for months before they arrived, analyzing the quantum signatures of their scout ships from afar. While they thought they were observing us, we were learning their weaknesses. The alien commander's face contorted with a mixture of rage and disbelief as his flagship's engines struggled against our defensive matrix. "What is this primitive trickery?" he demanded, his scales now pulsing with an angry red glow. But we knew it wasn't primitive. It was the culmination of humanity's greatest scientific achievements, born from our darkest fears of extinction. Our orbital defense platforms began their synchronized dance, each one activating in perfect sequence. They weren't firing weapons. Not yet. Instead, they were projecting overlapping fields of quantum interference, effectively nullifying the Empire's advanced shielding systems. It was like watching a master chess player systematically removing their opponent's pieces from the board, one by one. I glanced at Admiral Chen, who stood calmly watching the tactical displays. "Show them the archives," she ordered. On every communication channel, we began broadcasting historical footage, not just of our wars, but of our recovery from them. We showed them how humanity had rebuilt cities from ashes, how we had turned weapons of destruction into tools of exploration, and how each conflict had only made us stronger. The Empire's tactical officers were visibly shaken as they processed the data. Their species had evolved in a region of space where resources were abundant, where competition was minimal. They had never experienced the brutal crucible of evolution that Earth had provided. They had never needed to adapt, to innovate, to overcome impossible odds just to survive. "Your weapons," one of their analysts spoke up, their voice trembling. "They're not designed for conquest. They're designed for survival." They were beginning to understand. Every weapon in our arsenal was built with one purpose: to ensure humanity's continuation against any threat, no matter how it advanced. We didn't fight for glory or empire. We fought because our history had taught us the cost of being unprepared. The alien commander's next words were cut off as our quantum field intensified, causing their communication systems to flicker. Through the static, we could see panic spreading through their bridge. Their mighty empire had never encountered a species that could neutralize their technology so completely, so efficiently. They had never faced an opponent who had spent thousands of years preparing for this exact moment. "Sir," our tactical officer reported, "we're detecting energy buildups in their secondary reactors. They're trying to force their way through our containment field." Admiral Chen nodded, unsurprised. We had anticipated this response. It was exactly what we would have done in their position. As their ships struggled against our defenses, I couldn't help but think about the irony of the situation. The Empire had conquered hundreds of peaceful worlds, species that had evolved without the constant pressure of conflict. But here they were, their mighty fleet helpless against a primitive species that had been forged in the fires of countless wars. "They're preparing to launch their primary weapons," our sensors officer announced. The tension on our bridge was palpable, but there was no fear, only anticipation. We had spent generations preparing for this moment, developing countermeasures for weapons we had only theorized about. What the Empire didn't realize was that every attack they launched would only reveal more of their capabilities, adding to our already extensive knowledge of their military technology. The alien commander's image stabilized briefly on our screen, his scales now a deep purple of frustrated rage. He was about to learn the hardest lesson any invading force could face, that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in our weapons or technology, but in our unrelenting determination to survive. The Empire's flagship lurched forward, its massive engines straining against our quantum fields as they activated their primary weapon systems. The space around their fleet began to distort, reality itself seeming to bend as they channeled enough energy to vaporize a small moon. This was the moment we had prepared for, the moment when they would reveal their true technological capabilities. "They're targeting our orbital defense platforms," Lieutenant Park announced, her fingers dancing across the tactical display. Energy readings are off the charts, but there was no panic in her voice, no fear of the impending attack. We had run this scenario countless times in our simulations, and what the Empire didn't know was that our visible defenses were just the beginning. Admiral Chen's expression remained neutral as she gave the order, "Activate Protocol Omega." Across Earth's surface, hidden installations that had been dormant for decades began to power up. These weren't mere weapons platforms. They were the products of reverse-engineered technology from every alien ship that had crashed on Earth over the past century. We hadn't just studied our potential enemies. We had learned to turn their own technology against them. The alien commander's triumphant expression faltered as his sensors detected the new energy signatures emerging from our planet. "Impossible," he muttered. watching as thousands of quantum singularity generators activated simultaneously. Your civilization is too young to possess such technology, but we weren't just using their technology. We had improved upon it, refined it through the lens of humanity's unique approach to warfare. Our defensive grid shifted, creating a complex web of overlapping fields that began to isolate individual enemy ships. It was like watching a master weaver creating an intricate tapestry, each thread of energy precisely placed to contain and control. The Empire's fleet, once a unified force, was being systematically divided and conquered. A strategy as old as human warfare itself. I transmitted one final message to the enemy commander. What you're witnessing isn't just technology. It's the culmination of every war humanity has ever fought, every battle we've survived, every invasion we've repelled. We didn't develop these defenses to conquer. We developed them because we had to. The Empire's response came in the form of a massive energy surge as they triggered their weapon systems. The space between our forces lit up like a newborn star, their combined firepower enough to shatter planets. But as the energy wave approached Earth, something unexpected happened, something that made even our own scientists pause in amazement. Our quantum defense grid didn't just absorb their attack. It redirected it, channeling the energy through a network of collectors we had positioned throughout the solar system. Decades of studying stellar phenomena had taught us how to handle such vast amounts of power. The Empire had just handed us the energy we needed for our next phase of defense. "Sir," Lieutenant Park called out, her voice tight with controlled excitement. "The primary capacitors are at full charge. All systems are ready." Admiral Chen nodded, and I could see in her eyes the weight of the decision she was about to make. What we were preparing to demonstrate wasn't just a defense system. It was a statement to the galaxy about humanity's right to exist. The alien commander must have sensed something was wrong because his next transmission carried a note of desperation beneath the anger. "What are you?" he demanded, his scales shifting through colors we hadn't seen before. "What kind of species creates defenses like this?" The answer, of course, was simple. A species that had spent its entire existence fighting to survive. As our systems charged for the final demonstration, I couldn't help but feel a mix of pride and sadness. Pride in humanity's ingenuity and resilience, but sadness that we had been forced to become so formidable. The galaxy was about to learn why Earth had been left alone for so long, and the lesson would be one they would never forget. Just as we prepared to unleash our final defensive measure, our deep space sensors detected something that changed everything. Behind the Empire's fleet, massive rifts began tearing open in space, but these weren't Imperial reinforcements. The energy signatures were completely different, ancient, and somehow familiar. "Multiple contacts emerging," Lieutenant Park announced, her voice steady despite the surprise. They're using quantum signatures similar to ours." Through the tactical display, we watched as hundreds of ships emerged from the rifts, their designs unlike anything we'd seen before. Yet somehow, they felt like looking in a mirror. The new fleet's commander transmitted on all frequencies, using communication protocols that matched our own quantum encryption. "Children of Earth," a voice echoed through our command center, "we've been watching. You've exceeded our highest expectations." The Empire's ships hung motionless in space, caught between our defensive grid and this mysterious new force. Admiral Chen's eyes widened with recognition. "The Sentinel program," she whispered. "Few knew about this classified part of our history, the mysterious signals we detected decades ago that had accelerated our technological development. We'd always suspected we weren't alone in our preparations, but this was beyond anything we'd imagined." The alien commander's scales had turned almost white, a color we hadn't seen before. "The Guardians," he stammered. "They're just a myth. Stories to frighten children." But the fear in his voice suggested these were more than just stories. His mighty empire had apparently spent generations avoiding certain sectors of space, never knowing why. Our mysterious allies revealed what we had suspected all along. Humanity hadn't developed our defensive capabilities by accident. The crashed ships, the leaked technological data, the subtle hints about quantum mechanics, they had been tests. Humanity had been part of a grand experiment, not to see if we could be conquered, but to see if we could become guardians ourselves. Your species, the Guardian Commander explained, was chosen for your unique combination of traits, your creativity in warfare, that your capacity for peace, your technological innovation, driven not by conquest, but by survival. You were never meant to be conquered by the Empire. You were meant to show them a better way. The Empire's fleet hung suspended between two forces now, their mighty weapons rendered useless by technology they couldn't comprehend. But what happened next surprised even me. Admiral Chen opened a channel to both fleets and said something that would change the course of galactic history. We don't need to destroy them to win this war. The Guardian Commander's response was immediate and approving. And that, children of Earth, is exactly why you were chosen. Through our quantum network, we could sense the Empire's ships powering down, their commander finally understanding the true scope of what they'd stumbled into. But this wasn't the end of our challenges. As we watched, more rifts began appearing throughout the system. The Guardians hadn't just come to help us, they had come to warn us. Something was emerging from the depths of space, something that had forced them to accelerate their plans for humanity's ascension to their ranks. Admiral Chen turned to me, her expression grave. "Send the signal," she ordered. Across Earth, hidden installations began activating protocols we hadn't expected to use for generations. The quantum defense grid was just the beginning. Humanity's true capabilities were about to be tested against a threat that even the Guardians feared. The Empire's commander, watching this transformation with dawning comprehension, made a decision that would reshape his civilization. "We offer our fleet in service," he transmitted, his scales shifting to a deep blue of determination. "Teach us what you know." And so, in the face of a greater threat, former enemies prepared to stand together, guided by humanity's unique understanding of both war and peace. As the combined forces of humanity, the Empire, and the Guardians prepared for what was coming, our long-range sensors detected something that defied explanation. The void between stars was moving. Not just dark matter or cosmic phenomena, but something vast and conscious, something that had been waiting, watching, and gathering strength for millennia. "It's what we've been preparing for all along," the Guardian Commander transmitted. "The void consciousness, an entity that consumes entire civilizations. It doesn't just destroy worlds, it erases them from history itself." Now we understood why the Guardians had pushed humanity to develop our quantum defense technology. We weren't just fighting for survival, we were fighting for the very existence of memory itself. Admiral Chen activated our final protocol, something we developed but never tested. Our quantum defense grid began to pulse with a new frequency, one that resonated with the very fabric of space-time. The Empire's ships, guided by our technology, formed a perfect geometric pattern around Earth, their energy signatures harmonizing with ours. The grid isn't just a defense system, I explained to the Empire's commander, whose scales now shimmered with understanding. It's a key to unlock the fundamental forces of reality itself, but we needed the combined energy of all our ships to power it. This was humanity's greatest achievement, not the weapons we could build, but our ability to turn weapons into tools of preservation. The void made its first move, sending tendrils of non-existence that began erasing matter at the edge of our solar system. Pluto vanished first, not with an explosion, but with a quiet ripple that threatened to unmake everything it touched. The Empire's fleet held formation, their ships channeling power into our grid despite watching their own weapons dissolve into nothingness. "Now," Admiral Chen commanded, in perfect synchronization, every ship, every defense platform, every installation on Earth activated. The quantum grid expanded, not fighting against the void, but embracing it. We had learned from our own history that sometimes the greatest victories come not from opposing force with force, but from understanding and redirecting it. The Guardian Commander's voice carried a note of awe. "You succeeded where we failed. We fought the void. You're trying to communicate with it. And that was humanity's true strength. Through all our conflicts, all our wars, we had never lost the ability to seek understanding, even with our greatest enemies." The void recoiled as our quantum field made contact. Through the grid, we could sense its consciousness, ancient, lonely, and driven by a hunger born of isolation. Using technology reverse-engineered from 1,000 battlefields, humanity had created something unprecedented, a bridge between existence and void. The Empire's commander watched in amazement as their weapons, designed for destruction, became part of something greater. Your species, he transmitted, turns everything into a tool for survival, even war itself. His fleet maintained formation, their energy feeding into our grid, transforming from conquerors into preservers. But the void had one final surprise. As our quantum field established contact, we received a message, not in words, but in primal emotions and memories. The void wasn't trying to destroy existence, it was trying to understand it. Every civilization it had consumed had become part of its consciousness, preserved in a way we hadn't imagined possible. Admiral Chen made a decision that would forever change the course of the galaxy. Instead of trying to destroy or contain the void, we offered it something unprecedented, a way to experience existence without consuming it. Our quantum grid became a bridge, allowing the void to share in our reality while maintaining its own. The Guardians had chosen humanity not because we were the strongest or the most advanced, but because we could do what no other species had thought to try, find common ground with the unknowable. As the void's tendrils withdrew, replaced by channels of communication through our quantum network, the Empire's commander turned to us with a new understanding. Perhaps, he said, his scales shifting to a color we'd never seen before, it's not the strongest who survive, but those who learn to turn enemies into allies. And so, humanity's first interstellar conflict ended not with a battle, but with a breakthrough. We had proved that our greatest strength wasn't in our ability to fight, but in our capacity to understand, adapt, and grow. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would we. In the months that followed, Earth became something unprecedented in galactic history, a nexus point where three vastly different forms of existence learned to coexist. The Empire's mighty warships now orbited our planet, not as conquerors, but as students, their crews learning that true strength lies not in domination, but in adaptation and understanding. Through our quantum network, we began to understand the void's vast library of absorbed civilizations. Each lost species had contributed something unique to its consciousness, and now, through humanity's bridge, their knowledge and experiences could be shared rather than consumed. The Empire's scientists worked alongside ours, their military precision combining with our innovative chaos to unlock secrets that had been hidden in the space between existence and nothingness. Admiral Chen retired from her military position but took on a new role as humanity's representative to the Galactic Council. A new organization formed not to govern, but to preserve and protect. The Empire's commander, whose scales now permanently displayed a shimmer of colors we come to recognize as wisdom, served as her primary advisor. Together, they helped forge a new path for interstellar civilization. The Guardians gradually revealed more about their long vigil. They had watched countless species rise and fall, waiting for one that could bridge the gap between conflict and harmony. Humanity's turbulent history, which we had once seen as a weakness, had prepared us for a role we never imagined, teachers to ancient civilizations about the art of turning confrontation into cooperation. Our quantum defense grid evolved into something far more profound, a galactic network of communication and understanding. The Empire's vast fleet, once dedicated to conquest, now helped extend this network to the farthest reaches of known space. Every new civilization they encountered was offered not subjugation, but participation in something greater than themselves. The void, no longer driven by its endless hunger, became a repository of knowledge unlike anything the galaxy had ever known. Through carefully controlled quantum interfaces, species could access the accumulated wisdom of civilizations long past, learning from their achievements and their mistakes. Humanity's gift wasn't just survival, it was showing the galaxy how to learn from its own history. I still serve at the Earth Defense Command Center, but our mission has changed. We no longer prepare for war, but focus on expanding our understanding of the cosmos. The Empire's ships still train alongside ours, but now we practice maintaining the quantum bridges that connect different forms of existence. Their warriors have become philosophers, their conquest transformed into curiosity. Sometimes on quiet nights, I stand at the observation deck and watch the shimmer of quantum fields connecting Earth to the galaxy beyond. The void's tendrils, once terrifying, now pulse with colors that remind me of auroras on Earth, beautiful, mysterious, and full of potential. The Empire's ships move through these lights like silver fish through a cosmic sea, their crews no longer bound by the rigid hierarchies of their past. Looking back, I realized that humanity's greatest achievement wasn't surviving the Empire's invasion or even communicating with the Void. It was showing the galaxy that strength comes in many forms, that enemies can become allies, and that understanding is the most powerful force in the universe. We didn't just change the course of history. We proved that history itself is just another story waiting to be retold. As I prepared to welcome another delegation of alien species eager to learn from Earth's example, I can't help but smile at the irony. The Empire came to teach us our place in the cosmos, never realizing that our place was to become teachers ourselves. And so, humanity continues its journey, not as conquerors or victims, but as guardians of a truth we learned through countless wars and conflicts, that the greatest victories are won not through force of arms, but through force of understanding.